Now we come to the betrayal, the biggest one of the Iraq Study Group. Now, the latest news, and it's coming out of the Guardian in the United Kingdom, is that, and it's coming actually out of everywhere that we see reported on the Iraq Study Group, is that they're going to have a mealy-mouth, half-assed measure that's going to do absolutely no good. In fact, it's going to do a lot of harm, is my sense of it. Bush is talking, and the Iraq Study Group, apparently along with him, are talking about the last big push, which we've now, this is, I guess, the 8th last big push. And don't worry, guys, if we put in 20,000 more troops and we go halfway again, progress is right around the corner, right around the corner. And then they say, all right, well, look, we've got to meet with regional powers, and see, that makes sense. We've talked about it for all of last week. Hey, look, Iraq Study Group might make sense because you got to get people to buy into it. If you don't get people on the ground in Iraq to buy into it, it's not going to work. So Bush says, yeah, okay, I'll go halfway. Well, let's talk to all the regional powers we like. Yeah. So we might not talk to Syria, and we definitely won't talk to Iran.
Great, we'll talk to Saudi Arabia. They're our allies. We'll talk to Turkey. That's great.
Yeah, we'll talk to Australia. That'll help. Okay, we'll talk to Canada. Hey, what do you think we should do about the Sunnis and Shiites in Iraq?
Negotiating with your friends is not hard. Negotiating with your enemies is, and we need our enemies' help. The suggestion is and there's a source here. I pray it's a White House source, a Republican source, saying is if the Democrats are smart, they'll go along with this.
If they look, it's not over, and we don't know, and I still hold out a faint hope that they could pull it together and actually come up with a decent proposal, and maybe they can convince Bush to talk to Iran and Syria and the regional players on the ground and actually convince the Sunnis and the Shiites to stop fighting. But if they don't, and they come back with what is now being reported, because Bush still demands victory. Come on. Look, one thing that the Iraq Study Group has given up on and convinced Bush to give up on, again, according to the reports, is that you're not going to have a flourishing democracy that's going to be a model for the whole Middle East. That's gone, right? What they're looking for is stability, right? But they're still looking for, and what Bush won't give up on, is the idea of victory! But God, it is so frustrating. What victory? What victory? If they're going to not talk to the people that are relevant, and they're going to get together a bunch of people that agree with them in Iraq, these fake leaders that don't actually represent any of the actual troops on the ground. When I say troops, I mean militia, I mean insurgents, I mean the people actually doing the fighting on the ground. It is going to be the biggest circle jerk of all time. Everybody get around, grab a partner, grab Ted Haggard, grab whoever you're going to grab, okay, and just let's go around for another 6 months while American soldiers die for absolutely nothing while George Bush goes for victory! There's no victory! You got to at least do a reasonable plan, split up the country, do something, head in the right direction. If you don't head in the right direction, this is all a waste of time. And the Democrats, if this is what their Iraq Study Group is coming out with, Democrats should fight it tooth and nail.
Here's a quote that is disturbing, and it confirms what all of everybody's worst fear would be about the Iraq Study Group, and mainly not so much about the Iraq Study Group, but about the administration's willingness to move. And it turns out, if you believe this, that their willingness to move is to move 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet. There is no real willingness to really change direction on Iraq, which is, given the last 3.5 years, no one should ultimately be surprised by that. But here's this quote from a former senior administration official, according to The Guardian. You've got to remember, whatever the Democrats say, it's Bush still calling the shots. And that is an important reminder. Whatever the Democrats say, it's Bush still calling the shots. He believes it's a matter of political will. That's what Kissinger told him, and he's going to stick with it. Bush is in a state of denial about Iraq, says this senior administration official. Nobody else is anymore, but he is. But he knows he's got less than a year, maybe 6 months, to make it work. If it fails, I expect the withdrawal process to begin next fall. A year from now, essentially.
Oh.
The last push strategy, this is now back to the article, but we'll hear more from that former senior administration official. The last push strategy is also intended to give Bush and the Republicans, quote, political time and space to recover from their election drubbing and prepare for the 2008 presidential campaign. So, again, that's the notion that the Iraq Study Group, probably unwittingly, but they're not politically naive, is actually playing into a Republican political strategy, giving the Republicans political time and space to recover from the election drubbing last week. Again, this is the same official. The Iraq Study Group buys time for the president to have one last go. If the Democrats are smart, they'll play along. and I think they will. But forget about bipartisanship. It's all about who's going to be in best shape to win the White House. So
all they care about is politics. These people are gross. They're grotesque.
But listen, what's interesting is that this guy, this senior administration official, former senior administration official, is thinking about it, as Cenk said, only in terms of politics. But he says, like, he's not trying to help the Republicans in a sense. He's saying, I mean, for crying out loud, he says Bush is in a state of denial about Iraq. Nobody else is anymore. But then he says the Republicans really believe that everybody, and the Democrats believe it too, everybody thinks the Democrats' best strategy is to, don't cross the president on Iraq, don't cross the president on national security, because that will hurt the Democrats. This guy actually believes, I think, based on the rest of the quotes, that the smart thing for the Democrats to do is go along, and then when it fails, they can say, hey, look, it failed completely, we've got the best alternative, when clearly, at this point, I don't know what you need. And then, of course, what I would argue is this guy is also in a state of denial because everybody falls into this same trap, and it's why Carl Levin was right earlier in the week, why he's the only senator who's talking right now about specifically getting out, because they all say the same thing. Bush knows he's got less than a year, maybe 6 months, to make it work. What's going to happen in 6 months? What do we
Not a goddamn thing, except more Americans and Iraqis are going to get killed.
What do we keep thinking is the magic elixir that happens in 3 months or 6 months?
I'm beginning to think that the people running this country, 98% of them are just flat out idiots. I mean, if the Democrats go along with this, I'm going to have no hope left in anybody. Oh, once we Chuck Schumer, once we win, then we'll start doing the right things. Really? Well, here it is. Here's an opportunity. If the Iraq study comes out with this ridiculous proposal, just give us another year of killing fields where we actually don't change the policy at all. We get one last big push for victory from idiot Bush, and you go along with that, then there's no point in the Democrats winning. There's no point whatsoever, because then nobody will stand up for us. Nobody will stand up for reason. My God, man, you fight this tooth and nail. If the conventional wisdom in Washington is to go along with this awful, moronic plan, then the conventional wisdom in Washington is grotesque and completely wrong, and we're never going to straighten out this shit because a bunch of idiots run Washington.
What if the plan is, all right, another push with 20,000 more troops, and hang on, and if it doesn't work in 4 months, we go talk to Iran and Syria?
That means every person that died in those 4 months, well,
what if it was worded differently?
Hold on. That means that 4 months you absolutely wasted, and everybody that died in those 4 months died for absolutely no reason, and it is unacceptable. You go do the right strategy now. If you don't do the right strategy now, which is changing course. Look, I argued for the whole last week on this show that we shouldn't be in favor of just a blanket withdrawal. I argued against Ben. I argued against Carl Levin to some degree. I'm not saying we should withdraw. I'm saying we got to get on the right course. A little bit more time is not the right damn course. You're going to get all those people killed for nothing. Another year of all those kids, that American kids, Iraqi kids, all dying for nothing. So George Bush in his twisted, stupid mind can go up there and go, oh, I think it's a test of wills. I'm going to outwill the Iraqi insurgents. Okay, I'm not going to leave until they leave. You idiot, they live there. They're not going anywhere. God, so frustrating. These are our intelligentsia. These are our intellectuals. These are the people that are in charge. Jesus, man, it's so frustrating. And now we have another senior U.S. official talking to Reuters about preemptive strike against Iran. And you wonder, we're crazy. Oh, we're alarmists. Here's a quote. Senior U.S. official. We, the United States, and others who might be threatened by these developments, meaning Iran, will have to look at how to respond, and inevitably, I think people will have to look at the question of preemption. I think, quote, further, I think it's inevitable that any American administration, not just this administration, but future administrations, will have to look at preemptive strategies. Well, they're going to bomb Iran. I mean, I don't know if this guy wins. He's just one senior official. And maybe he's a neocon that's out of step with the administration or the current powers that be. But there are people working inside this government right now to try to start a disastrous war with Iran as if Iraq wasn't bad enough. The people in charge are mentally incapacitated. I mean, you wonder why some Democrats in frustration, or some liberals, or some progressives in frustration say, somebody please impeach these guys. The reason isn't because, oh, we like political, oh, we're going to get them back and it's about politics. It's because they're so painfully dangerous. We have to remove them from office before they get more people killed, before they do more damage.
The good news is that guy says, or future administrations. So I would say, okay, good. Well, let's leave preemption to a future administration.
God help us all. If this Iraq study group comes out with this proposal, it'll be an absolute waste of time. And all you families out there that have kids fighting in Iraq, and if they die in the next year, they'll have died because the people in Washington were too proud of their egos and their wills to let go of a policy that never worked, that never had a chance of working, and because of their Bush's pride, Baker's pride, all these people's pride, your kids are going to die for no goddamn reason.
Young Turks, Air America Radio.